was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom, boom. I hear it and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Happy 2023, and welcome to Peace with Penny. I'm Penny ST, and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. Another year is beginning, and Peace with Penny wants to continue to get the word out that the majority of Israelis and Palestinians do want peace, but unfortunately it's only the extremists that make the news. Meanwhile, thousands of grassroots people work daily on peace to make their lives better together. We're starting off the year celebrating the work of the Alliance for Middle East Peace, or ALLMEP. Most of the peace organizations that we interview at Peace with Penny are ALLMEP members. It's a pleasure to let the world know that Israelis and Palestinians work on peace from all different angles, even during challenging times when violence threatens to impede their efforts. This week will be a little different, and instead of an interview, we'll be sharing with you ALLMEP's recent gala called Meeting the Moment. Why? Because like Peace with Penny, ALLMEP works every day for their membership to promote peace in the Middle East. It has a membership of over 160 member organizations dedicated to working on peace between Israelis and Palestinians. ALLMEP was instrumental in helping to get the U.S. Congress to pass the Middle East Partnership for Peace Act, or MEPPA, in 2020 to advance peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. Why not join us and hear about the first year when MEPPA funds were made available?
Between you and me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Moment, ALLMEP's Global Virtual Gala. My name is Lucia Harish, and I'll be your host for the evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on where in the world you are joining us from today. The Alliance for Middle East Peace is the largest and fastest growing network of Israelis and Palestinians peace builders, representing over 170 member organizations, including 25 new members in the last year alone. It is this community of Israelis and Palestinians, Arabs and Jews, who are working every day to disrupt and overturn the racism and dehumanization that the conflict feeds upon, and instead build together as equals, partners, and the trust relationships and fresh ideas that real peace requires. For more than 50 years, the international community has taken an elite-driven and short-term approach to resolving this conflict. And all that while, we've been forgetting about the individual citizens, the families and communities who are fated to share this land together, and who ultimately determine who those leaders are, what policies they prioritize, and the room they have to take the risks that peace requires. ALLMEP believes that peace will require popular demand, and its 170 member organizations are out there building that popular base every day. ALLMEP works to connect our members with programs and services to raise their capacity and to take this growing movement for peace and equality more than just the sum of its part. Yet this community also needs radically more resources. And thanks to ALLMEP's advocacy, unprecedented levels of funding has been unlocked from governments around the world to support this bottom-up approach to peace building, which many seasoned diplomats have recognized is the only way in which stable constituencies for peace can be created. This support includes the $250 million Bipartisan Middle East Partnership for Peace Act, or MEPPA, which has just completed its first year, was the result of sustained ALLMEP advocacy, and is the largest ever investment in this work. ALLMEP has been working with the US and with governments all around the world to leverage this US investment to encourage our government to invest through a game-changing international fund for Israeli-Palestinian peace. I am honored to host this gala tonight and to support ALLMEP. I am an alumni and member of this very same community, with my future and that of my family, like every Israeli and Palestinian, shaped by the success or failure of efforts to bring both peoples together. Tonight, you'll hear more about ALLMEP's program, projects and achievements, as well as our vision for a peaceful and just reality for both Israelis and Palestinians. As a reminder, all of the proceeds from tonight will go directly to supporting ALLMEP, who do not receive any of the funding that their advocacy unlocks for the peace-building field, depending instead entirely on private philanthropy to do this work. Ahead of this gala, ALLMEP has raised $150,000, which we are hoping to match with another $150,000 by the end of tonight. I'll be checking in with you on the tally throughout the evening, and to donate, just use the QR code that you're seeing right now on your screens, or visit www.allmep.org/donate. And now I give the floor to those who are at the heart of ALLMEP's work, the member organizations.
Hi, I'm Hilal Ahar from Tech to Peace.
I'm Robbie Damlin from the Parent Circle Families Forum.
And I'm Ronit Zimmer, and I'm from Project Rosanna.
ALLMEP means to me a network of partners.
A mouthpiece for peace in our region.
A place where I can meet like-minded people in difficult times.
A wonderful management support system.
An invaluable source of good advice.
ALLMEP serves as a model for genuine Israeli-Palestinian relationships.
ALLMEP has helped us in capacity building, in fundraising, in mapping.
with our submission for MEPPA funding.
Supported us to meet members of Congress and the Senate.
Partnerships, management support in so many ways.
ALLMEP is important to us because it creates a unified voice for peace.
And professionalizing the field of peace building.
For respectful conversation.
ALLMEP's Peace Building Conference brought the field together.
It provided super helpful insights for MEPPA funding.
A remarkable place to network.
Without ALLMEP, our impact just wouldn't be as strong.
We wouldn't be able to engage with governments.
We wouldn't reach as many people as we do.
There would be no room for peacemakers to meet.
We wouldn't have access to partners on the other side of the border.
Thank you, ALLMEP.
Thank you, ALLMEP.
Thank you.
Thank you is a big word. And as a quick reminder, we are tallying donations in real time, and you can donate by scanning the QR code or going to allmep.org/donate. Every gift makes a real difference to this work. So we're towards the end of a truly dreadful year in the region, where the tensions and violence have impacted so many people. And I now want to introduce Wasim Al-Masri, ALLMEP's Director of Programs, who's joining us from Ramallah. Hi Wasim, شو الأخبار؟
Hi Lucy, كيفك؟
تسلم الله يخليك. And I just want to speak with Wasim, and Wasim can provide some insights into that wider context. So Wasim, again, good evening. And I want to start with the first question. What's especially striking to you about these developments, and what part of the story we missing on how basically we got here?
Thanks, Lucy. You're right. So it's been a tough year. Hopelessness, anger, and tension have once again erupted into a deadly cycle of violence that is increasingly difficult to contain. The death toll has been on a rise since the beginning of this year. The West Bank is at a break point, with this year on a track to be the most violent since 2005. As a parent, this is terrifying, and the recent Israeli election was also really worrying, as we're looking at potentially the most hardline Israeli government in history, with prominent figures who've never been near power before, and with ideas that seem totally opposed to peace and equality between Israeli Jews and Palestinians.
So saying what you're saying, how is this, let's say, a generational shift?
Right. Well, first, the political dynamics marks a generational shift, especially for young people under the age of 30, who make up the majority of the population in both societies, which are much younger than those in Europe and America. And you have to understand that 70% of the entire Palestinian population grew up since Oslo with an absence of a clear Palestinian national strategy. One of the key findings in 2020 from the youth poll we conducted with the United States Institute for Peace is that by clear majority, each side believed that the other is have an illegitimate presence on the land, and that violence is the only or best way to achieve concession from the other side. And little in the past decades has been really done to disrupt these attitudes. It's also remarkable how little contact there is between both population now. And even when we do meet, it is largely within a very negative context, rather than Israelis and Palestinians coming together and working to figure out how they can share the land.
Yeah, and saying that, those demographic trends certainly paint a blink picture for the countries these youth will inherit, unfortunately. Is there anything positive to latch onto, and what can we do with it?
Well, there is. The poll also found that the majority of both sides believe peace is possible between the two people, and that the conflict is mostly about leaders fighting for their own interests. In fact, fewer than 30% on each side consider cross-border engagement activities illegitimate. And other studies by the likes of Notre Dame University and George Washington University, for example, have shown that these programs are really effective at disrupting some of the scary attitudes that we saw in our poll. In our view, that's a strong case of grassroots peace building between Palestinians and Israelis. But these programs need to reach the scale where they can impact all those who our poll shows as potential participants. Then we could see this attitude shift, new avenues open, and some truly terrifying ideas now growing in popularity taken off the table.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying. So just let me ask you this. Let's say there is the investment to support this work. How do we know civil society can actually follow through? And what's ALLMEP doing to address this?
That's a great question. So it is worth emphasizing that there are over 170 civil society organizations and ALLMEP network working every day to raise the level of trust between societies, and a large cohort actively pushing for conflict resolution. They tried, they failed, they succeeded, and they find their ability to change behaviors among individuals and to affect change at a broader communal, institutional, and policy levels. Again, though, the challenge here is scale. For ALLMEP part, we are bringing large-scale funding to the field, but we also work in the field ourselves to forge these partnerships, to facilitate collective action, and to provide members with the skills and training to build their capacity. That's the work I lead every day as director of programs in ALLMEP. That's how we reach a critical mass of youth and Israelis and Palestinians in general to build trust between societies and support for a just, dignified, sustainable peace.
So the scale is very important, and I see your point on scale, but then tell me this, how does trust and general support for peace actually contribute towards progress on the political level, the political arena?
Great question. So it is, there's an important role for civil society in Palestine and Israel to bridge the gap between young people and political change. We need an active cohort on both sides actually pushing for peace. Civil society organizations like ALLMEP 170 members can build vital social and political tracks to strengthen democracy, grassroots activism, and social responsibility. However, it is critical to take action now.
You know, it's kind of obvious when you're saying that it's critical to take action now. That my next question seems obvious, but why is it important to take action?
Well, there's two reasons. First, if we don't disrupt the trend of youth radicalization, it's only going to get worse. But second, on the flip side, what's clear is the new generation of Palestinian and Israeli is not content with the status quo and is eager for change. Our poll showed that less than 13% of youth support status quo that has been clearly and sustainable for some time. Right now, some very bad people are leading the conversation about what should replace it. Our job is to offer an alternative based on peace, equality, dignity, and solidarity. When I look at my kids for inspiration, and I can't help but feel that we have an intergenerational responsibility and social obligation to listen and understand their personal struggle. This is a limited opportunity to help the generation disrupt the status quo and lay the foundation for a culture of solidarity across our community. That's the moment my generation needs to meet right now, and what we need your help and support in achieving.
I'm taking the sentence that you said and ending with it. It's a limited opportunity, and we need to seize the moment, like we're saying. Thank you very much, Wasim, for your insights. It's been a pleasure hearing you and listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So long as this conflict persists, and as we just heard from Wasim, escalates, we are losing yet another generation of Palestinians and Israelis who are being drawn in as its victims. But as we have been hearing, there is a path that can change things. When politics and politicians in particular seem to be such a large part of the problem, that's when civil society can provide renewal and disruption. When progress is stuck at the top, why not support efforts to change the reality from the bottom up? I'm going to hand over to Niveen Sanduka, ALLMEP's regional chief of the staff, who is joined by some of ALLMEP's amazing member organizations doing this work every day and showing what's possible when Palestinians and Israelis work together as partners in an effort to transform this reality.
My name is Niveen Sanduka, and I'm the Regional Chief of Staff at ALLMEP. Here in Palestine and Israel, we see firsthand the impact of grassroots peace building through our member organizations' work. Together, these efforts of our network build trust between societies and work towards raising informed and empathetic citizens who actively support an end to the conflict with the other side. Joining me today are three member organizations: Mr. Mohammed Deraouche from Givat Haviva Center, Mr. Bashar Shawa from the Eco Peace Palestine, and Ms. Leah Beinhacker from Hand in Hand. Thank you so much for joining us today. So first of all, we'd like to understand a little bit more. What does grassroots peace building mean to you? Maybe I can start with you, Mr. Muhammad.
Yes. First of all, grassroots work means trying to find the right individuals that need to be engaged in leadership training in order to be peace activists, to meet with the peers from the other side so that they understand that the other is a human being. He's not just an enemy. He's not just a political case. He's not just a security case, but someone with whom you can build a common future.
Ms. Leah?
So grassroots organizing at Hand in Hand looks like Jewish and Palestinian students coming together in schools from preschool all the way through high school, learning together in shared classrooms, learning one another's history, culture, narrative, language, growing together and bringing along their families in community organizing and making change from the bottom up.
Amazing. And last but not least, Bashar.
Hi, Yin, and thank you. As environmental peacebuilding regional organization, which is working mainly in Palestine, Israel, and Jordan, we focus on all our tracks and the projects, regardless it's an educational background, green entrepreneurship, young professional targeting projects. EcoPeace mainly focused at the grassroots level as a changing point, and for sure the policy making is a changing factor here. But if we don't work on grassroots level, I think the change will not be effective.
But can you tell us a little bit more? How can grassroots peace building disrupt this bleak status quo and change reality towards peace and equality, especially for the new generation?
So the status quo gets disrupted when you do something that's really, really different. And in our schools, we bring together Jewish students and Palestinian students. In our schools, the students come together in a shared classroom. And then when something is happening outside of their schools, these students have a reference point for who the other is. It's no longer something that's really so remote. It's a peer, it's a friend, and that disrupts the status quo.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Hamad, do you want to add to that maybe about your view?
Yes, I mean, we do a lot of programs of cross-sector teachers programs where we place Jewish teachers in Arab schools and Arab teachers in Jewish schools. They talk about the problems, the issues, the conflictual issues that allow the elephant into the room and someone that they can develop mutual interests with. And I think that's probably the most important part, where you get out of the cycle, the vicious cycle of violence, which seems to be a deadlock. And here we show that it's not a deadlock. You can develop a personal empathy to each other, you can engage in dialogue with each other, and you can develop mutual interests together.
How do you measure your success?
You know, in one of our programs, the cross-sector teachers program, we know, for example, from measurement that for 93% of the kids that we work with, this is their first and only meaningful encounter with the other. And for 68% of them, this changes their perspective from negative to positive about the other. And now the question is, to how many more people do we present to this experience? So it's not just few thousands or few tens of thousands, but hundreds and millions of participants, and to make sure that this impact lasts for much, much longer time.
And my question next would be, how do we actually achieve policy changes as well?
A grassroots movement for change can be so powerful. It can bring policy changes in its wake. You know, our elected officials can see what people are demanding, what people are wanting. And we see this around the world, that social movements can cause policy changes. We can also be sharing our work, as we are, our organizations, with policy leaders, letting them come and see the value of this work, why it's so important, what role they can play as elected officials, and lobbying for them to adopt it and expand it.
What do you feel that the peace building field is missing? Bashar.
Political will, I think it's one of the main challenges we face, and we need to change the political will of all parties of the conflict. Whatever we will do, it won't be felt at the short term. It will for sure needs long-term impact.
Leah.
I think what we need is scale. We need to be able to reach a tipping point. And we do that by all of us continuing the amazing, meaningful, hard work that we're doing, by having more organizations start working in this field, and all of us together raising the visibility of our work and keeping at it. We need ALLMEP to continue connecting us and letting us all together be more than the sum of our parts, because this is a field that has a huge mission. We have big ambitions. We've got a huge problem to solve, and we need scale to do it together.
Thank you very much for everything that you do, and thank you very much for also joining us this evening.
Yeah. Remember, from the bottom up. This is exactly what we're doing here. So a quick update on the donation tally between donations and pledges. Since the beginning of this program, we're just under $57,943, $57,943. And I want to make a special thanks to Charles Kramer. Thank you very much for your generous donation. Thank you very much. So I'm just saying that we're again $57,943 towards our $125,000 goal for the night, and we're just under a third of the way through. So thank you very much, people, for your enthusiasm. It's amazing and humbling. And I will now hand over to Washington to Kari Reed, the U.S. director, who will be joined by Avi Meyerstein, the president the president and founder of ALLMEP. They will be sharing details on ALLMEP's success already in scaling governmental funding for this work to heights never seen before, and how this may only be the beginning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kari Reed, the U.S. Director of ALLMEP, and I have the pleasure of being joined today by Avi Meyerstein, the President and Founder of ALLMEP. Avi, welcome.
Thanks, Kari. It's great to be here.
Avi, so you and I just watched this video where we just saw programs that bring Israelis and Palestinians together, and seeing how they can confront the tough issues that face them in the conflict and work together to improve their daily lives. And that we also saw that the vast majority of people, when engaged in these programs, dramatically changed their attitudes about each other.
Yeah, and at the same time, we've also seen what happens when peace agreements between leaders are not strongly and broadly supported. Peace-building programs are absolutely critical to create the popular demand and the conditions that are needed for future peace to succeed.
Yeah. So when I hear you say that, Avi, the question to me is, how do we change not just the individuals or the small communities, but how do we change the big picture of the conflict itself?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It goes to the heart of everything that we do at ALLMEP. To change the big picture, we have to not just reach those individuals and local communities, but we have to reach so many more people over the long term and keep them engaged.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And so we both know that today our members' projects reach tens of thousands, but we have to remember that there are 14 million people living between the river and the sea. And most of them doubt that they have a partner they can trust without ever meeting anyone from the other side. And you and I both have talked about this, and we think that our members' programs can change that.
Yep, I know all of us at ALLMEP have imagined the landscape and what it would look like if we could reach just 25% of the population. I mean, that's 3 million people. But imagine if there were joint schools and community centers and business hubs and sports programs located everywhere that Israelis and Palestinians were living near each other but rarely interacting. We could significantly expand the number of communal spaces for Jews and Palestinians, young and old, men and women, to work, to learn, and to play together.
Yeah, I like to think about it like imagining if every person and every family knew someone deeply changed for the better and working toward peace. And we know this strategy works. And more importantly, I think that we can scale it.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We've seen strategic long-term investments like this help deliver and sustain peace in other places around the world. In Northern Ireland, for example, starting 12 years before there was a peace treaty, the world was spending more than $44 per person every year on peace building priorities through the International Fund for Ireland.
Yeah, that's a big number, $44 per person annually. And it reminds me that we have a long way to go with regards to this conflict. I mean, before the US MEPPA investment, donor governments spent just $1.50 for people-to-people peace-building efforts among Israelis and Palestinians. And we know that there's a huge need to increase trust, respect, and hope for peace. So, Avi, I know you just returned from Northern Ireland, where you spent several weeks with the International Fund. Can you tell me a little bit about what really stands out from your visit there?
Well, I was there for several weeks and I saw a lot while I was there, but a couple of things really stand out to me from the visit. First of all, I think the International Fund for Ireland has been transformational because it guarantees that civil society has the long-term resources necessary to bring people together and give peace a real chance. If the divisive and bloody sectarian conflict rages on for generations, from what I saw there, it's clear that it still takes generations to repair and come out of that. And the second thing is that the fund really has unique legitimacy. So people all over Ireland, Northern Ireland, trust the IFI because it was multilateral funding, because it was so independent, and because it really focused laser-like on one thing, which was building trust and partnerships to bring about peace. It's really my sincere belief that MEPPA should be the first step in establishing a similar strategic and long-term approach to peace that we know works in the Middle East.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great because with the enactment of MEPPA, there's now a dedicated long-term funding stream that Israeli and Palestinian peace builders can rely upon. It has 5 years of funding, and it also opens the door for the possibility of multilateral partnerships with other donor countries so that peace-building efforts can be long-term, they can be sustained, institutionalized, and coordinated in a way that has never been attempted for this conflict.
Yeah, that's why MEPPA was such an important breakthrough and why it's such an important opportunity, especially now. You know, we're constantly advocating to make an international fund for Israeli-Palestinian peace a reality. And now we're seeing momentum. For instance, at the G7 conference earlier this year, 8 world leaders sat around face-to-face at a small table, and one of them proposed working to create this international fund that we've put on the table. The UK formally endorsed this concept, both the government and the opposition, just like the bipartisan consensus in Washington that helped to deliver MEPPA. And we've also seen interest from Canada, France, Germany, the UAE, Japan, Australia, and the EU. It's really building. And the Abraham Accords now allow us to imagine a process that brings the wider region into this project, supporting Israeli-Palestinian civil society peace building for the very first time. Before and during the process in the 1990s, we really missed a moment. We should have dramatically invested in grassroots peace building so that the Israeli and Palestinian publics would have been ready partners to support the hard-won agreements signed by their leaders. That's what happened in Northern Ireland. But here comes MEPPA just at the right time, giving us a chance to get this right the second time around. If we seize this moment and build an international fund to work for the next generation, a future peace process could look a lot different than those in the past.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your remarks, Avi, on that. I mean, I think this is a great cause for optimism, which we all need more than ever as violence continues and peace seems so out of reach. So thank you, Avi, for your insights and tremendous efforts to keep the International Fund for Israeli-Palestinian Peace moving forward.
And thank you, Kari, for all of your leadership and hard work to get us to the next milestone. With such an incredible team, a growing network of peace builders, and the supporters who are standing behind us, I know we'll get there.
I'm sorry. Here we back again. Zoom meetings, all of us, usually we're muting ourselves. So again, I will say again, thank you to Kari Reed and Avi Meyerstein for their words and their work. If you fund it, they will build it. So if ALLMEP can succeed with your help is provide this coordinated long-term investment through an international fund, the peace building field will be able to grow to a scale we've never seen before, so that hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Palestinians and Israelis can participate in these programs and join this community. But this advocacy with governments is only half the story. What is ALLMEP doing to meet this moment in the region itself, where its members and most of ALLMEP staff are based? Where exactly? So let's hear directly from the team on the ground.
مساء الخير. My name is Huda Abu Arqoub and I am the Regional Director of the Alliance for Middle East Peace. I live in Dura near Hebron. I know, don't raise your brows. Hebron is a very nice place to live in. I've been working with an amazing team that I have seen growing beyond imagination. Since 2014, the regional office has been very active responding to the needs of our members. We've grown our community from 70 organizations to 160 organizations, and we literally have a waiting list of organizations who want to join the Alliance for Middle East Peace.
I'm Dubi Schwartz, ALLMEP's Director of Membership Relations, based in Hod HaSharon, Israel. I worked every day to connect a growing ecosystem of peace activists, now over 160 member organizations, including 60 new ones since 2020 alone. They collaborate, network, and work together to increase their impact. The conflict touches every aspect of our lives, so we are making sure to help our diverse membership be more than the sum of its parts. Instead, they are one ecosystem working together for peace. We recently hosted a members meeting with 60 organizations in attendance to discuss and get insights on MEPPA's first year and learn on new funding opportunities in 2023. We had a Zoom call with members to discuss employment benefits and worker rights for Palestinians working for NGOs registered in Israel. We have secured double the amount of daily permits to enter Israel from the West Bank for Palestinians to participate in programs over the Green Line from 2,500 to 5,000.
My name is Wasim Al-Masri. I'm the Director of Programs at the Alliance for Middle East Peace. I'm based in Ramallah. To me, meeting the moment means working together every day to challenge the social and cultural misconceptions surrounding the word peace. This is our reality. We want to produce a better life for ourselves and our loved ones. ALLMEP is meeting the moment by creating incredible programs to support the work of our members and create a culture of solidarity across our membership. We understand the important role of alumni and the next generation. Their impact and guidance are needed to challenge and disrupt the status quo. Our Alum Hub program managed to bring together alumni managers from our membership to learn how to harness their alumni as a reliable force multiplier. and to conduct joint activities to advance and professionalize the sphere of alumni engagement. We also believe in the power of storytelling to connect people across societies. Our Mideast Storytellers program with Bite of Hope and Pendulum produced 24 digital stories over 2 years, highlighting the work and lives of Palestinian and Israeli peace activists who choose to reject hatred, bigotry, and racism. While our Groundwork podcast, entering its second season with New Israel Fund, showcases the work of grassroots activists who refuse to accept the status quo that denies Palestinians and Israelis equality, liberty, and security. These stories give me hope for the future. They highlight our struggle. They highlight our pursuit for freedom, security, and dignity, and they need to be heard.
My name is Nivin Sanduka, and I'm ALLMEP's Regional Chief of Staff based in Jerusalem. To me, Meet the Moment means to prepare the field to be proactive rather than reactive. We need to be gathering stories and proof that this work transforms attitudes and behaviors. Meeting the moment means helping the field develop the evidence, the infrastructure, and the programs that will lay the foundation for future peace agreements and a just reality for Palestinians and Israelis. My role is to help ALLMEP and its members to walk the talk. We help the members to develop their organizational structure, train their staff in planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Therefore, they can improve their programs and increase their impact. We also do this internally. I'm guiding ALLMEP's programs, as well as supporting the programs of the members. Our work is cohesive, and each program plays a special role in a holistic approach to peace.
I'm Brian Reeves, and I'm ALLMEP's Director of Development and Regional Advocacy, based here in Tel Aviv. To meet the moment means to rise to the occasion of a critical, time-sensitive opportunity. Our opportunity here is to show that the peace-building field can take an investment such as MEPPA and run programs that can make a real impact. To meet this moment that MEPPA has created for us, we've helped dozens of organizations submit stellar proposals for the MEPPA funding, and we can proudly say that most of the awards in MEPPA's first year went to those in our network. We pushed our members to present bold new ideas and forge new partnerships across the Green Line. And at the same time, we've closely engaged with top Israeli and Palestinian government stakeholders and have convened virtually every donor country in the region, twice in fact, to encourage their own MEPPA-like investment for funding the field. What gives me hope for the future is a theory of change that invests in the people and actually works.
Is the incredible work of our members working to promote peace.
That ALLMEP is growing. Peace activists, despite great odds, are not giving up.
We're working every day to meet the moment.
We're working every day to meet the moment.
Every day to meet the moment.
We're working every day to meet the moment.
Working every day to meet the moment. It's amazing as a journalist, what we show you on screen, what we show you on TV, what we show you as journalists, when sometimes, actually most of the times, the reality is totally different. And this is what all these people are doing. So it's great to hear, it's great to hear how the ALLMEP team is working in the region to raise the peace-building field's capacity, create a real sense of community, and make this movement much more than just the sum of its part. As we heard a little earlier, 2 years ago, ALLMEP played a leading role in helping to pass a one-of-a-kind piece of legislation, the Middle East Partnership for Peace Fund, or MEPPA. MEPPA just finished its first year of grant making and is administered by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. As a dear partner to ALLMEP, it is my honor to introduce Megan Doherty. USAID's Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Middle East, and the person who's been leading the rollout of MEPPA during this critical first year. Honoring.
Hello to everyone participating in the annual gala for the Alliance for Middle East Peace. As the USAID Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Middle East, overseeing our portfolio in the West Bank and Gaza, I consider ALLMEP to be one of our closest and most trusted partners. While we are in constant touch with Avi, John, Huda, and Kari, I know they would agree that ALLMEP's true strength is in the experience and diversity of its members. I want to take a moment to thank you for your continued advocacy and support to people programming and legislation. Congresswoman Nita Lowey pushed for the landmark bipartisan MEPPA legislation because she was inspired by what she saw peace builders accomplish, including some of you with us today. She knew how impactful your work can be, and on her way to retirement after 30 years in Congress, she made it her highest priority to ensure that your work receives the support it deserves. Now, together, we are making her vision a reality. USAID, in partnership with the Development Finance Corporation, put $50 million into peacebuilding programs in 2022 that will bring Israelis and Palestinians together while strengthening water coordination, improving health outcomes, and contributing to economic growth. At the same time, we know that more resources for peace builders means a greater chance at peace. And that's why we are joining ALLMEP to rally donors of all backgrounds to increase their support for your work. We are proud of what we accomplished in this first full year of MEPPA programming, but we also know there is room to grow. Next year, we will focus more of our efforts on smaller organizations, and we will do everything we can to make it easier to work with USAID. We do this because we know you are the experts and that we will only be successful in this work if a variety of partners with diverse perspectives have a seat at the table. In a conflict that often feels it is moving in the wrong direction, MEPPA and the work of ALLMEP and its members is a reason for hope. So as you use this annual gala to reflect on shared challenges, I hope you will also consider all that you have achieved and all that we will be able to achieve together with the new resources and the enthusiasm that MEPPA brings. Thank you very much for all that you do in the name of peace, and enjoy the rest of this gala.
Thank you so much. And now we want to honor a great person. We want to honor Joanna Godwin. Great, of course, to hear from Administrator Doherty, and to know that she and the entire team at USAID are working day in and day out to ensure MEPPA can fulfill its full potential. And like I said, we now have the pleasure of hearing from one person in particular whose generous support and leadership has brought ALLMEP from its very earliest startup days to where it is now, Joanna Godwin. None of the money ALLMEP helps to unlock from governments around the world goes to ALLMEP. Instead, this team relies entirely on the generosity of family foundations and individual donors like Joanna and like you in order to do this work. We are delighted to honor Joanna, who stood down in September after many years of service on ALLMEP's board for all that she's done to build and sustain this movement. And I'm going to leave it to Huda to introduce her.
And now it's the moment that I've been waiting for some time. And it's the moment where ALLMEP is giving back to one of the most generous women in her support for ALLMEP Regional Office and ALLMEP International, Joanna Godwin. She is tonight the recipient of our 2022 Gala honorary. She is a woman who has done so much for ALLMEP, and she is a woman that has changed the lives of many Palestinian and Israeli peace builders. Joanna Godwin.
Thank you, Huda, for your kind introduction. And I want to say a few words about you too, my friend. From the moment I first met you, I saw the star leader in the making. And when you joined the ALLMEP team as the director of our first ever regional Middle East office, I knew that you had the potential to build something that was going to change the world. And over these last 10 plus years, I've watched ALLMEP change the world. And with you coming on board, I've watched you change the world. So thank you for everything you do for ALLMEP, for the women of the Middle East. So I want to say a few words about how delighted I am to be the 2022 ALLMEP Gala honoree. I have believed in Avi and his vision from day one. When I joined the board, I knew that I was aligning myself with something important for the future of Middle East peace. Why? I was already involved on the political side through J Street, but I saw through my own philanthropic work that it was the people-to-people peace that was going to round out the circle. Without it, we would never have a sustainable peace. Negotiators and politicians can come to any agreement that they want, but it's the people who have to live it, who have to be willing to sustain it. And in a land where the other rarely intersects, it is so important to have opportunities to bring people together. And all the organizations that are ALLMEP members are just those kind of organizations which foster cooperation, understanding. They put stereotypes to rest because reality takes the place of imagination, and people are meeting each other and working with each other and struggling together and learning each other's narrative in a way that they never learn it unless they're exposed to each other. So I feel that all the work that ALLMEP has been striving to support is the future, especially in 2022, when we have such broken political systems, whether we're talking about the US or we're talking about the Middle East and Israel in particular. Strange alliances are being made that stall progress, that are more interested in the aggrandizement and the political futures of certain individuals rather than the people who they are supposed to be governing. As my father, my mentor, always said, if the people will lead, the leaders will follow. Well, ALLMEP is supporting organizations that are building a cadre of people who are not only becoming future leaders, they are leaders, and they are going to change the calculus in the Middle East because they are committed and they understand the importance of cooperation, of teamwork, of building a society where peace is eventually a possibility. When I was a young mother and my children were in elementary school, my father called me one day and said, I am supporting a community in Israel called Neve Shalom Mahat Salam. It means the oasis of peace. It is the only intentional community in Israel where Arabs and Jews willingly, voluntarily, excitedly live together, govern together, educate their children together in a bilingual school. He said, this is the future, and I'd like you to help me raise money for this community. He said, I know a young filmmaker who's studying at UCLA, and I think you two should partner together and raise money for the community. So my father introduced me to Hani Elias when I lived in Los Angeles, and together we built a community of support for the American Friends. This was my first introduction to the possibility that Arabs and Israelis could see a joint future. This was actually in the heyday of the Oslo Accords. This was when hope was on the horizon, that progress was possible. Well, we know what's happened in the last 25 years, and hope is more distant now than ever, except for ALLMEP. If you look at polling that's been done and realize that over 60% of Israelis and Palestinians under the age of 30 think that the other side is still trying to destroy their society and culture. We know there's a lot of work to be done to introduce each other to the other in a meaningful way. And that is what the organizations that belong to ALLMEP do. And that is why I support ALLMEP with my heart and my soul. As I've told everybody, I am a lifer. You can't get rid of me. I may no longer be serving on the board, but I believe that in this world of fractured politics, that there is no stopping people and their will to make a better world. And we want to do everything to facilitate investment in the work these people are doing. From the earliest days when we worked to support a $10 million a year US aid grant to people groups in the region, we've now grown to $250 million over 5 years with the new bipartisan, congressionally supported plan to facilitate the peace builders of the Middle East. And we're not stopping there. The vision is to build an international fund. And I say, I'm all in. Let's go. Let's get $250 million a year pumped into this region. Let's learn from the example of Ireland, how the Good Friday Agreement wasn't achieved until 10 years after significant sums of money were poured into building people-to-people connections and a matrix of support. So when the governmental piece fell into place, the people were ready. So I want to thank you again for supporting me. I want to thank my father for introducing me to Neve Shalom Wahat Salam and for igniting in me the fire to continue his work in peace building among people. That is where my heart lies. So thank you again for this honor.
Wow, these are some really, really powerful words that, again, bring to mind what we can accomplish when we pool resources, move together, live together, and make our efforts diverse and inclusive. I'll shortly be signing off and turning over the last part of this evening's program to ALLMEP's Executive Director, John Linden. Final update on our progress for donations from the better part of this hour. We are at $121,382. Again, $121,382. Thank you so much. Thank you all of everything that you're doing for making this evening a success. If you haven't yet donated, there's still time to get us to $150,000. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be and to take part of this amazing gala and amazing project, and be part of a really small part of everything that you're doing. Thank you so much, and I'm signing out. Take it away, John.
Well, thank you, Lucy. And you're very much more than a small part. I can't think of a better person to have guided us through this this conversation about peace building this evening, because it's pretty late where you are in Israel. So a huge thank you for this support and for all that you do, I think, to model and to champion the kind of Israeli-Palestinian partnership we're all working to scale.
Thank you.
So my name's John Linden. For those of you that I haven't had the chance to meet before, I'm the Executive Director at ALLMEP. And this year, ALLMEP, we've taken some pretty significant steps to expand our work. We've added new staff members in the region, where most of our staff now are in Israel and Palestine, to support the expanded programs you've heard a little bit about over the course of the last hour, but also internationally to increase the reach of our advocacy beyond just the United States to governments right around the world. Now, we haven't done this by accident. It's because we took a pretty rigorous analysis of the situation as it stands today and realized that there is a very urgent moment that we need to meet. You've heard a little bit about it over the past 55 minutes or so. On the one hand, as our youth poll makes clear, and as Wasim, I think, explained very articulately, we have a crisis going on within the youth attitudes of cohorts of both young Israelis and Palestinians. They're more divided, hostile, fearful than maybe any other generation that we've had before, and we're seeing some of the political consequences of those attitudes play out and a real need to disrupt them. But then on the other hand, I think as you heard from Kari and Avi and then from Deputy Assistant Administrator Doherty at USAID, we have this tool that we didn't have before with regards to MEPPA. $250 million of investment into this work, a scale we've never seen before, into programs that we know are incredibly effective at disrupting those very same attitudes that should trouble everybody that cares about Israeli-Palestinian peace. More than that, the situation on the ground and that sense of urgency demands us to take MEPPA and catalyze it into something multilateral, broad, and very ambitious that draws the entire world toward creating an institution focused narrowly on transforming the attitudes and lived experiences of Israelis and Palestinians. And we're closing out one of the most impactful years that we've had, even though the political situation is dire. We've seen our membership grow more than any other year in our history. We've seen MEPPA begin to release, as we heard, the first of its grants for the $250 million we'll see over the next 5 years. And we've seen governments, as you heard earlier, register their increased interest in working together to scale this work. But we have even more ambitious plans for next year because 2023 is going to challenge us and we need to be ready. With your support, we can bring more countries on board using MEPPA, as I mentioned, to catalyze a genuine international fund, growing a truly multilateral institution focused narrowly on asking what we're doing to prepare this generation of Israelis and Palestinians with the tools, the experiences, the relationships necessary to further conflict resolution. But we can also expand our capacity building programs to prepare the field for those resources, to get the maximum impact out of every dollar that our advocacy has already unlocked. And we can also work to ensure that our members are activating their alumni networks so that the tens of thousands and hopefully hundreds of thousands of people that pass through these programs are leveraging those experiences, the transformations that often happen in those rooms toward the social and political change that we know conflict resolution is going to require. And finally, we can work to build partnerships amongst our members so they can think collectively rather than individually, forming a vanguard, a community, a real movement that's more than just the sum of its parts, reaching many more Palestinians and Israelis as a result. For all of that, we need you and we need your support. The funds that we unlock from governments, they're not for us, we don't get a dollar. They're for our incredible members and other peace-building NGOs. To do this work internationally and in the region, we need your support. We need concerned and committed individuals right around the world to weigh in behind us in this community. Every gift today is being matched, thanks to some very generous ALLMEP donors, including Joanna Goodwin, who we just heard from, and will contribute towards us keeping up this momentum as we go into the next year, rather than having to pause or to reduce capacity at this critical time. We want to work to ensure that participation in the sort of programs you just heard about become a rite of passage for every young Israeli and Palestinian, and that can then transform the politics that flow from the attitudes and the lived experiences of these young people. I want to thank again Lucy Arish, our host, for drawing us through this evening. And I want to also thank our guests, Deputy Assistant Administrator Megan Doherty and Joanna Goodwin, our former board member who you just heard from and who we're delighted to honour. And I want to thank, most importantly, perhaps, our staff. The ALLMEP team have been working so hard this year against incredible headwinds and done the most amazing work to be able to further the ambitions of our field and really bring the members together, as well as our board of directors in the United States, in Europe, and the Middle East for supporting us in all that work. Especially recognizing our new incoming chair, Annie Spar, who's hosting right now a watch party of this gala in Los Angeles, and Charles Kramer, who's hosting one right now in San Francisco. Thank you, Annie, and thank you, Charles. And I also want to acknowledge and thank outgoing chair, Josh Thomas, who's been the most incredible mentor and champion and ally for all of us at ALLMEP and for the wider field, and who we're delighted will be staying involved in a leadership position at ALLMEP's board after he stands down. And a big thank you finally to you. For those of you that are given tonight, I can't tell you how big a difference this is going to make as we go into the year ahead. Even if you haven't been able to donate, if you can introduce this work to friends, family, colleagues, and spread the word about the fact that there's a plan, that hope isn't just based upon naivety, it's based upon a plan that can scale, that is demonstrated to have impact, and that with your support can reach heights we've never seen before at a moment that's never been more critical. 2023 is going to be throwing at us a lot of challenges, but also some opportunities. And with this community, both in the region, but you internationally, we can make a real difference. Finally, as is now our tradition at ALLMEP Galas and at so many of our events, I want to hand over to the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. One of our members, we're very proud to count amongst the 170, but the only one that are an amazing vocal group who are going to sing us out this evening as we close our Meet the Moment Gala. Thank you.
We kicked ourselves with walls and stones, leaving nothing but hate for us to fragile that we let go of the ones we long for, just because their skin has a different tone or their hometown is not one of our own. ונשארת לבדה.
فشل وبطينا بالقيود ولا فيش منا إفادة وإحنا هبق على الوجود إنه ما بنعمل أي شيء بس بنضلنا بالبيوت. طب كيف بنتحرك وأنتوا حاطين لنا الحدود؟ جربوا وعطونا الحرية وشوفوا إيش بيطلع بإيدينا. احكيليش عن زمانك لأنه وقتك مش زي وقتنا، ولأنه الدنيا اتطورت وإحنا غير زماننا. يعني سيبنا من ماضيك وخلينا نركز في حاضرنا. قدام مسابقة طويل أبنية لحالي بس بدنا ناكل وسط وسعر الوسط غالي. ما تقولي شوف لك شغلة يكون في أشغال كتير وما لفيت كل الدنيا ونهلاك من التدبير.
Who do we protect when we hate our neighbors? Who do we help when we don't assist the labors? Terrorism perfect, nor is the Middle East, but with love and respect we can get a little peace. I'll do my best, but I can't do it alone. Gotta work together, let our love be shown.
جربوا وعطونا الحرية وشوفوا إيش بيطلع بإيدينا.
Subjective as is motivated by society. Why is it that to fit in you must act with such propriety? Living by another standard isn't living honestly. So cut the chains, embrace the change, you don't know how to fight. See, we joined this little choir, apprehensive and not skeptical. Didn't know what we would find in place so unconventional. But as we started making fence of reasons so material, for heart, heart, and mind to mind, past needs was comical. Cause MEPPA was on a something same French, it's magical. The chaos in the choir really makes you feel excited with the talk, you sing, laughing, that the care is automatic. Yeah, it's peace, love, and good, all but we've tried it, been tested. We found an open place, so accordingly we acted. Never had to be apologetic, nothing was restricted. Didn't need to filter how we lived or how we have adapted. With our borders kept, but still told the seeds of hope are planted.
وشوفوا إيش بيطلع بإيدينا. وشوفوا إيش بيطلع بإيدينا.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kari Reed, the U.S. Director of ALLMEP, and I have the pleasure of being joined today by Avi Meyerstein, the President and Founder of ALLMEP. Avi, welcome.
Thanks, Kari. It's great to be here.
Avi, so you and I just watched this video where we just saw programs that bring Israelis and Palestinians together and seeing how they can confront the tough issues that face them in the conflict and work together to improve their daily lives. And that we also saw that the vast majority of people, when engaged in these programs, dramatically changed their attitudes about each other.
Yeah, and at the same time, we've also seen what happens when peace agreements between leaders are not strongly and broadly supported. Peace building programs are absolutely critical to create the popular demand and the conditions that are needed for future peace to succeed.
Yeah. So when I hear you say that, Avi, the question to me is, how do we change not just the individuals or the small communities, but how do we change the big picture of the conflict itself?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It goes to the heart of everything that we do at ALLMEP. To change the big picture, we have to not just reach those individuals and local communities, but we have to reach so many more people over the long term and keep them engaged.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And so we both know that today our members' projects reach tens of thousands, but we have to remember that there are 14 million people living between the river and the sea. And most of them doubt that they have a partner they can trust without ever meeting anyone from the other side. And you and I both have talked about this, and we think that our members' programs can change that.
Yep, I know all of us at ALLMEP have imagined the landscape and what it would look like if we could reach just 25% of the population. I mean, that's 3 million people. But imagine if there were joint schools and community centers and business hubs and sports programs located everywhere that Israelis and Palestinians were living near each other but rarely interacting. We could significantly expand the number of communal spaces for Jews and Palestinians, young and old, men and women, to work, to learn, and to play together.
Yeah, I like to think about it like imagining if every person and every family knew someone deeply changed for the better and working toward peace. And we know this strategy works. And more importantly, I think that we can scale it.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We've seen strategic long-term investments like this help deliver and sustain peace in other places around the world. In Northern Ireland, for example, starting 12 years before there was a peace treaty, the world was spending more than $44 per person every year on peace building priorities through the International Fund for Ireland.
Yeah, that's a big number, $44 per person annually. And it reminds me that we have a long way to go with regards to this conflict. I mean, before the US MEPPA investment, donor governments spent just $1.50 for people-to-people peace-building efforts among Israelis and Palestinians. And we know that there's a huge need to increase trust, respect, and hope for peace. So, Avi, I know you just returned from Northern Ireland, where you spent several weeks with the International Fund. Can you tell me a little bit about what really stands out from your visit there?
Well, I was there for several weeks and I saw a lot while I was there, but a couple of things really stand out to me from the visit. First of all, I think the International Fund for Ireland has been transformational because it guarantees that civil society has the long-term resources necessary to bring people together and give peace a real chance. If the divisive and bloody sectarian conflict rages on for generations, from what I saw there, it's clear that it still takes generations to repair and come out of that. And the second thing is that the fund really has unique legitimacy. So people all over Ireland, Northern Ireland, trust the IFI because it was multilateral funding, because it was so independent, and because it really focused laser-like on one thing, which was building trust and partnerships to bring about peace. It's really my sincere belief that MEPPA should be the first step in establishing a similar strategic and long-term approach to peace that we know works in the Middle East.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great because with the enactment of MEPPA, there's now a dedicated long-term funding stream that Israeli and Palestinian peace builders can rely upon. It has 5 years of funding, and it also opens the door for the possibility of multilateral partnerships with other donor countries so that peace building efforts can be long-term, they can be sustained, institutionalized, and coordinated in a way that has never been attempted for this conflict.
Yeah, that's why MEPPA was such an important breakthrough and why it's such an important opportunity, especially now. You know, we're constantly advocating to make an international fund for Israeli-Palestinian peace a reality. And now we're seeing momentum. For instance, at the G7 conference earlier this year, 8 world leaders sat around face-to-face at a small table, and one of them proposed working to create this international fund that we've put on the table. The UK formally endorsed this concept, both the government and the opposition, just like the bipartisan consensus in Washington that helped to deliver MEPPA. And we've also seen interest from Canada, France, Germany, the UAE, Japan, Australia, and the EU. It's really building. And the Abraham Accords now allow us to imagine a process that brings the wider region into this project, supporting Israeli-Palestinian civil society peace building for the very first time. Before and during the process in the 1990s, we really missed a moment. We should have dramatically invested in grassroots peace building so that the Israeli and Palestinian publics would have been ready partners to support the hard-won agreements signed by their leaders. That's what happened in Northern Ireland. But here comes MEPPA just at the right time, giving us a chance to get this right the second time around. If we seize this moment and build an international fund to work for the next generation, a future peace process could look a lot different than those in the past.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your remarks, Avi, on that. I mean, I think this is a great cause for optimism, which we all need more than ever as violence continues and peace seems so out of reach. So thank you, Avi, for your insights and tremendous efforts to keep the International Fund for Israeli-Palestinian Peace moving forward.
And thank you, Kari, for all of your leadership and hard work to get us to the next milestone. With such an incredible team, a growing network of peace builders, and the supporters who are standing behind us, I know we'll get there.
The people who live this conflict want their children to play safely in their backyards. Although Israelis and Palestinians live closely, most often they don't socialize, and between the reality of violent episodes and amidst the isolation, fear, hatred, and mistrust can spread like a disease. These organizations give us hope and help to heal these festering wounds. You can always see Peace with Penny recordings on our Peace with Penny YouTube channel or at our website at www.penny.com. We'll be beginning our 3rd year on January 24th, and there are 75 interesting interviews to choose from 24/7. Once you enjoy them, share them with your family and friends. Let them know there is good news. Thank you, and may you live in peace, shalom, and salam.